So you're new to Genshin, you do a 10 pull on the current banner, and while you don't get a 5-star, you do get 4-star Gaming. Now, what do you get with Gaming besides the Guard of the Sword and Strongbox Secure Transport Agency? Well, Gaming is a Claymore wielding Pyro user whose skill allows him to do his own plunging attacks. I'm Kessie, Mango, whatever the hell you want to call me. And because not everybody is AR60 with 36 hearted, I decided that I was going to make videos that hopefully anybody can understand. Also notice that I've changed things up, right? I'm no longer just a bar at the top. I am interactive and immersive. If you learned something, do be sure to like, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff. And let's get into this video on the newest 4-star Gaming. All right, so just like we do in every single one of these beginner guide videos, we're gonna look at the current build of the character that we are using for this video. One, so that way maybe you can look at what a future build for this character might be. And two, in case my character is doing more damage than your character, it'll be a good indicator as to what the difference is. Now, my Gaming does have around 1500 attack. He is level 40, and he's gonna be hitting some crazy high numbers for a level 40, actually. Now, his crit split is 58 over 158.6 with 127.6 energy recharge, and I do have a fully leveled pyro damage goblet on him. That's where that 46.6% pyro damage bonus is coming from. I am running a level 80 Serpent Spine on him for the crit rate. He is running a 4-piece Marshmallow Hunter, which is actually my Diaz artifact set for on-field damage dealing. He is C1, and the only thing that's going to mean is that right here, as you can see, whenever the dog comes back to him in his burst, which we'll talk about later, he will regain HP, which is how he can use Marshmallow Hunter to very good effect. And his talents are 1-1-1. So overall, besides the artifact set and the level 80 weapon, this is going to be a relatively good beginner build for Gaming to see what he can do. All right, so first we are going to talk about his normal attacks, his skill, and his burst. Now, his normal attack is going to be a 4 consecutive hit, and actually the final hit is actually really cool. It's very different. It's a little slow, but it's really cool. Now, on his skill, what he's going to do is that he is going to plunge forward. If he makes contact with an enemy or a surface, he is going to go up into the air, and if you follow that up with a normal attack, it is going to do a plunge attack. Now, in this, he is going to hurt himself a little bit whenever he does it, but you can make up for that with his burst. If he does not come in contact with a surface or a person, he doesn't do anything. Whenever you use his skill and you do that plunging attack, you also convert his damage to pyro damage, not physical damage. That's why we have these red numbers here instead of the white numbers. By the way, these gold swords spinning around him are from his Serpent Spine weapon. It is not to do anything with his burst or his skill. Now we are going to talk about his burst. So what his burst is going to do is that he is going to send this dog into the air, and whenever the dog lands, it is going to do an AoE pyro attack. Now, whenever the dog meets back up with Gaming, whenever it runs back over to him, it is going to reset his skill cooldown time. So you'll be able to see that we're going to do a lot of plunging attacks and use his skill a lot as soon as the dog connects back up. Now, when the dog does connect back up because of the C1, he is going to heal himself from that. Now, once the dog does meet back up to him, as you can see, it resets his skill cooldown, which means that we can do a lot of plunging attacks using this combination. And you'll also see down bottom, his HP bar is going to be going up and down and up and down and up and down because of using his skill and his burst together. Something else with his burst, if you use his burst and you swap Gaming off the field, you are no longer going to be able to use his burst. It cancels it. So if you swap to another character and you come back, his burst is just stopped. Now, if you use his burst and you use his skill and the dog runs away and you swap to another character and you swap back, once the dog meets back up with you, it will still reset your skill cooldown one last time, but the burst has ended. You cannot just use his skill over and over and over again like you were doing before. And I gotta say, he's actually hitting like really decent numbers. And whenever we get into the part where we talk about using Gaming on a beginner friendly team, he's gonna be hitting well over 10K. And there's sometimes where he hits 11 or 12K on his plunging attacks, which is just crazy that he's able to do that at level 40. Now, I do know he does have a really good artifact set on him, and he does have a pretty good weapon, one of his best weapons actually on him that is leveled up, and that could be why. But that just goes to show you like the scaling with Gaming is gonna be crazy as you level him up and get him better artifacts. Now, something to note about using his burst, it does give you an increase in resistance to interruption, but if you do get interrupted like frozen or something like that, it is going to make it very difficult to keep his burst going. Whenever you get interrupted or frozen, the time to recover is going to make it to where you're not going to get the full use out of his burst. So do just make sure that you're trying to avoid that. Now, for a beginner artifact set, doing a 4-piece instructor set is probably going to be your best bet if you do not have a weapon that has elemental mastery, but it would also allow you to put more into his attack doing that. If you do not have a 4-piece instructor set, or if you want to go with something else, maybe doing like a 2-piece berserker and a 2-piece anything that gives you attack, like resolution. Doing a 2-piece and 2-piece will be good because one, it'll get his crit rate up, it'll also get his attack percent up, which he will benefit from. On the main stats for these artifacts, if you can, then running an attack percent Sands, especially if you're going to be running an elemental mastery weapon or a 4-piece instructor set, then doing an attack percent Sand is going to be good. If you're not running instructor set, if you are not running an elemental mastery weapon, then running an elemental mastery Sands can be really good if you're causing vaporize reactions. So for Goblet, you want to be doing a pyro damage Goblet, of course, and for a circlet, doing crit rate or crit damage, whichever one you're in more need of. Now for beginner weapons, there is a 3-star weapon called the Blood Tainted Greatsword that gets up your elemental mastery, and it has a pretty good passive for Gaming. It increases damage dealt against enemies affected by Pyro and Electro, and with Gaming, you're gonna have a ton of Pyro flying around, so it's gonna be easy to keep that passive up. Now, if you do not have a Blood Tainted Greatsword, then you can use something like the Debate Club just because of the attack percent. Now, if you have a Prototype Archaic, you can put that on him, but again, unless you work in a normal attack, you're not gonna be able to get its passive, but this is a craftable option. However, there's a much better craftable option, and that is the craftable weapon from Fontaine. Now, the Fontaine craftable weapon is called Tidal Shadow, and it gets up your attack percent as well as having a pretty good passive that Gaming can take pretty good use of whenever you're using his burst. So the passive is after the wielder is healed, it will increase their attack by 24%. This is at R1. And because this is craftable, it won't be as difficult to get this thing up to R5, which would make it 48%. So you can get a lot of attack from this weapon. And because Gaming's burst heals him, you can constantly be having this passive up. So now we're going to talk about a beginner-friendly party. Now, this is assuming that you have done one pull on the current banner and you got Gaming from that one pull. The only other characters that you have are the characters given to you for free by the game. So first we're going to have Gaming, of course. Then we're going to have Xiangling. Now, Xiangling is just really good as a off-field damage dealer. And if you're running a weapon like the Blood Tainted Greatsword, she is going to help keep enemies affected by Pyro. So you're just doing more damage to them all the time. So after that, we have Lynette. Now, Lynette is only going to be in here really as a beginner to give crowd control with her burst, as well as trying to get Hydro Infusion on her burst to make vaporize reactions more easy. After that, we have Barbara, who is going to be doing our Hydro application with her skill that will stay around Gaming. It'll help apply Hydro to enemies so that way Gaming can get vaporize reactions. So as you can see in this team rotation, we are going to be getting up Lynette's burst. So as you can see in this team rotation, everybody started with their burst, so we use them right off the bat. We're going to use Barbara's skill to get that Hydro ring around us. We're then going to go to Lynette's burst, and we're going to try and get Lynette's burst to absorb the Hydro, because once it absorbs it, it is going to, one, offer crowd control. Like I said, enemies are going to gather around it, but two, it is going to be spreading out Hydro, making it easier for Gaming to do vaporize reactions on the enemies that are going to the burst because of the crowd control. Xiangling is in there, one, to just kind of help get some particles going with Boba, also because it is going to just affect more enemies with Pyro. Now, the one thing is that it is going to also possibly, her burst is going to take up some of the vaporize reactions from Gaming, as you can see, but overall, it's still going to be doing a lot of damage as a team. Then we're going to be using Gaming on field with his skill and his burst, doing as many plunge attacks as we possibly can. So as you can see, having Lynette's burst absorb Hydro is really good because it's going to affect more enemies with Hydro, allowing for just more vaporize reactions. If you are not as worried about having that extra little bit of healing that Barbara offers, then you can use somebody like Kaya, whose burst is going to be spinning those icicles around, and you'll be able to get melt reaction, which will do more damage, but then you do lose that little bit of healing. Now, if you are solely using Gaming on the field and everybody else is off field, Gaming should be able to keep his health up high enough to where you don't really have to worry about having that extra healer. And that is going to be it for this beginner guide on Gaming. Do let me know in the comments what you think of the new setup. I think it's kind of funny having all the Genshin stuff going on behind me instead of below me, or like where I'm just in a little corner. I kind of like the setup. TikTok really liked it, and I think that it's going to be good for YouTube as well. So if you liked the video, if you learned something, like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.